what'd you make of the latest from Baker?
Well, I think when I have my franchise quarterback in front of the cameras, I want him to display a little tact. I want him to be a professional. I kind of want him to be humble as well. And unfortunately, that's just not who Baker Mayfield is. He's a guy that's going to be brash. He's going to be confrontational. And I think that's going to be a problem for him in the NFL. In the NFL, we have a way of humbling people. And when your talk and your media hype isn't superseded by your play, you're going to have a big-time issue. And I think that's what's happening to Baker Mayfield. Listen, their team has lost each of their 3 last games. They're 2-5, and he's thrown twice as many interceptions as he has touchdowns. He's not playing well. The team's not playing well. And at this point, he should be frustrated. However, don't take it out on the media. Be a professional. Find a way to win football games. Don't add more fuel to the fire. And to me, that's all he's been doing with all these media interviews, adding more fuel to the fire.
Yeah, that's what the conversation should be about. This team being better at executing and Baker Mayfield not throwing the other team the ball. He's had an interception in every game that he's played this year and had an interception in their regular season finale last year. That's 8 straight games with turnovers from your quarterback. It's going to be hard to win ball games when you're doing that, but even beyond that, this continues to be the story for this Cleveland Browns team. Issues with the media trying to take on the us against the world mentality, and it isn't working for them because they're 2-5 and they don't really beat any teams that have championship aspirations. Only one win against a team that has playoff aspirations this year, a team that will be in the playoff pictures, which is the Baltimore Ravens. Now, when you look at the second half of their schedule, there are only 2 teams that we would consider in playoff contention, so they have an opportunity to rattle off some wins. But, you know, when you look at this whole situation, I think Baker Mayfield has to understand his station, which is being an extension of the front office and ownership. When you talk to the media, you're also representing them. So I just think that in terms of wanting somebody to be, you know, a CEO in that locker room, Baker leaves a lot to be desired. Nick, you say he's a one-of-one in terms of his stature and being able to have success playing the quarterback position at that size. Well, I mean, he's also would be a one-of-one if he's a quarterback that can go out there with this type of attitude toward the media and everybody else and have success. I've been in the National Football League over a decade. I've never seen a quarterback have this type of attitude that has success individually or as a team. So it remains to be seen whether or not Baker can actually be successful playing that position, taking on this type of approach.
It's also hard to imagine the guy that has this amount of lack of success that he's had to still have this same attitude. This attitude, you're right, it hasn't worked for him. It's not helping his football team.
But Nick, and I can't believe I'm going to make your point a little bit. You can't tell a guy to change who he is. This is, I mean, I understand there's a way that he could massage it a little bit, but is your best bet to say, hey, listen, I know this is who you've been your whole life. Now I need you to change it for the benefit of the
because here's the
optics?
problem. Here's the problem. He has been a guy that is not going to be a good winner. He has been a guy who is going to tell you how good he can be and back it up. We have not seen him fail. So we can't be like, well, when they were 3-9 at Oklahoma, they weren't. He was great. He's had his rookie year when he's pointing at Hugh and doing all that stuff. He's setting the all-time rookie passing touchdown record, and the team is winning in the second half of the season. He's having success. Listen, you, Jenna Wolfe, and Colin Cowherd were, as far as on FS1, the 2 people waving red flags saying, I'd be careful with this kid. And I love the passion, but you have to include maturity. I love the fire and the authenticity, but you also have to grow. There is one of the things I'm about 10 years older than Baker, so I have that benefit. One of the things I've learned over the last, call it 5 years, is IQ is great, but EQ is equally as important. The emotional quotient. How can you handle yourself when you are in a big boy job with a big boy position? And that's something that and I've never had a job like Baker's, obviously, but I've been in the public eye my whole adult life to some degree, and you learn it by making some mistakes. Baker seems to be going backwards is the problem. And this was not heat of the moment after the game. It's damn Tuesday.
Right.
And that was not this was not Manish Mehta of the New York Daily News trying to poke at you repeatedly to try to get you to react. It was a legitimate question about the end of the drive in the first half that there's a legitimate answer to. Legitimate answer is as simple as, hey, Tony, I don't know if you know this, the Patriots have made a decade-long career of scoring before the half and then scoring after the half. We wanted to score, but we also wanted to make sure they didn't score. That makes how we manage the clock a little more complicated, especially once you get the penalty. You can answer it that way. It's not that hard. And Baker, and then the tweets after, doubling down on anyone picking on me as being a hypocrite, you're whining. And I can't abide the whining.
Do you remember when the Texans, I think the Texans lost to the Panthers, Deshaun Watson came up to the podium.
Right after the game.
Right after the game. Not 2 days later, right after, and they asked him a question. And instead of just getting frustrated and answering it the way Baker did, he went through a very lengthy explanation. It was very inside baseball, very X's and O's. But he described it, and he said, this is where we were come from. This is our perspective. That's the way you should handle it. And we all lauded. We said, well, that's great. Look, we all learned something from it. Could Baker ever get to that point, or is that just never going to be him, Brian?
I think that was going to be outside of the character of Baker Mayfield. We've never seen Baker humbled in that way. I think that quarterbacks in the locker room like Deshaun Watson, that plays well with your teammates. That kind of settles your teammates down. That says, listen, we're going to have confidence in that guy leading us. For Baker Mayfield, I don't know that that's the guy that I want leading us through the turmoil of an NFL season. There's going to be ups and downs, and if you got your quarterback going up and down with the rising current and down with the low current, that's going to be a problem. At some point, you have to be level-headed and be able to fight through all these things. Baker Mayfield just doesn't seem like he's built for that. That's going to be a problem. Here's the other thing about the Cleveland Browns. They have almost all their weapons offensively. They will get Kareem Hunt as well, but they have almost all their weapons, and they're still not doing very well. What are they waiting for to do well? They're not waiting for someone to come back from injury to start playing well. They have great wide receivers, and they have a very good running back. There's nothing else coming back to this football team.
They're waiting for their quarterback to not play terribly.
That's the problem.
Now, we can say the offensive line is an issue. It is. But we knew that going into the year. Freddie Kitchens is an issue. We knew that could be the case going into the year. Baker Mayfield has been one of the 5 worst quarterbacks in football this year. Well, I didn't know that going into the year. As skeptical as Jenna was about the Browns, I don't think you expected that level of futility. And Baker's not dealing with it well. But this is, maybe it's a step in his maturity, or maybe this lack of maturity will prevent him from reaching his potential, which I think is being one of the best quarterbacks in football.
33 quarterbacks have thrown at least 100 passes. Only Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold have a worse passer rating than Baker Mayfield. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.